Breaking news, Trae Young is officially a member of the Washington Wizards. That trade that we heard about a couple of days ago. Things materialized extremely quickly. I rushed home to get this out for you guys. So make sure that thumbs up and subscribe. 80% of viewers aren't subscribed to the Basketball Bulletin where Trevor Lane and I keep you guys informed. So make sure you do subscribe. Also, it's free. It takes just a moment, but it helps tremendously. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. Let's get this to a like goal of 700 likes. My name is Donnie Freeman. I'm going to break this down for you guys today. Let me know in the comments as well down below. Good trade, bad trade, winners, losers, etc. What do you think about this? But ultimately, there's no draft capital in this. That's one of the things that Trevor and I talked about in our live stream earlier. If you didn't see that, make sure you do check it out. We talked to you on a bunch of different things in that video. But ultimately, we did talk about that. Would there be any sort of draft capital? Because from the Hawks side of things, they're treating Trae almost as like a salary dump. You know, they don't want to. They didn't want to extend him. I just bit the inside of my cheek. It hurts like an M. Anyway, they don't want to extend Trae Young, anything like that. They have decided, since they went 2-8 in games that he played so far for them this season, he's just not the right fit. Right. And they didn't really get to see a ton of him out there with their main core guys, but they pulled the plug on it really quickly. I think if you go back to the offseason, they weren't able to materialize an extension. I think that's really where this all mostly starts. We were talking a lot about it back then that, hey, this is something to definitely keep an eye on. And I do wonder if now that this domino has fallen, if any other ones start to fall as well. Like, do we see a trade for a John Morant or anybody else, just hypothetically, that's been out there as a rumored trade? But one thing I will say, and I believe Shams might mention this as well, we'll see, is that this may actually pave the way to Anthony Davis. There's been a lot of Anthony Davis linking to Atlanta. And one thing that came out of that was Atlanta really wanted to, like, in my head, I would want to have him and Trae. But regardless, Atlanta really wanted to clear the way for AD's salary by trading Trae out. Like, they didn't want to have both of those guys making 50 million plus or whatever. They wanted to trade out Trae and then bring AD in as well afterwards. And so that absolutely paves the way for that. It remains to be seen if a deal will materialize there or if they've got whatever Dallas may be wanting in return. AD's also been linked to other teams like Toronto, I believe, came out today, things like that. He's also been rumored to want to just stay in Dallas, and Dallas has also been rumored to just want to see what their big three looks like, and all this. That's the season that we're in ultimately. But we're going to talk a lot about this trade. Like I said, I'll give my opinions on it and more in just a moment, everyone.
Ever hear the Sleeper app? Here's a little secret. It's more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. This year, millions of users enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but the app offers so much more. Live stats, real-time updates, and visualizations on all stats. A news feed, this is so important for me. You can get lightning-fast updates on your favorite players and teams. A real-time chat to allow you to engage with other users about individual plays and performances during the NFL and NBA seasons. So download the #1 sports app today. Experience it for yourself. When you use promo code Bulletin, you get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. And by the way, they do have a phenomenal promo going on right now as well. Free $20 entry. Go check that out. No deposit required. $20 entry for free. Go check them out. Use the link in the description down below, and that promo code is Bulletin.
Trevor texted me super mad he couldn't be here for this because this trade comes out literally 2 minutes before the Laker game started. As you see, he's live right now over on Twitter, streaming the play-by-play for the Lakers versus Spurs. And I thought that was pretty interesting. But like I said, CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert for Trae Young. That is the entire deal as far as we know. We do know there's confirmation that there's no draft picks or anything like that. But overall, though, I thought it was interesting. We knew this was coming because earlier today, Trae was listed for another game out. He had already missed, I believe, 5 games up to that point. CJ missed his first game of the season, and then Corey was listed as out as well. It's like, this seems like it's moving really quickly. Trae Young's representation also reportedly have been pressuring the Hawks into trying to figure out a deal sooner than later, and wanting to get this done. Right, just kind of get it over with and rip the Band-Aid off. So Sham says that the trade ends Young's stint as the face of the Hawks and sends the 27-year-old to his preferred destination in the nation's capital. I've said this before, and I'll say it again one last final time. I think it's kind of funny. that he was linked to other places. There's a report he wanted to go to like the Timberwolves, things like that. But the only team that really was interested in taking him on was the Wizards, and that's where he wants to go now. So it's you like it, I love it. Top Wizards officials, excuse me, I can't talk. Michael Winger and Will Dawkins have searched to anchor their young talent in the next step of the team's development. Young is also reunited with Wizards executive Travis Schlenk, who drafted him number 5 overall in 2018 in Atlanta. So one thing I'll say while I was taking a shot a little bit, I actually really do like Trae in Washington. And it's not that Washington's going to play like super meaningful basketball or anything like that anytime soon, but that's not always the bar, right? Like ultimately that is the bar at some point, but that's not the step of the progression that Washington is in right now. They're trying to add pieces. They're trying to build and develop the players that they have. And I really do like a number of their guys there. I'm like really high on Alex Sarr. I think he has a world of potential. He's got the 3-ball work and he can refine that and become better at it. He's an elite rim protector, great finisher. Like I think he'd be really nice with Trae. We know Trae's a 25-10 guy. Obviously, I'm not going to reiterate it again here. We've already talked about the defensive concerns with Trae. It just is what it is. But there's other young guys on this team that I really like as well for the Wizards that are going to be, I think, a good part of this core. The question I have is at 27, is he anything more than a stopgap? Because they're going to, when they truly get to the point where they're entering their prime, which is years from now, like, 4 or 5 years from now, he's going to be, 4 or 5 years older. So by that point, I do wonder if they wouldn't just need another lead guard. Maybe he'd still be able to man that down. Maybe he could be a backup at that point, but we're projecting far off into the future. But in the immediate future, Trae is going to be their point guard, and Trae is going to most likely get an extension, right? The question with that is can you max him out? I think he's got the production. I think he's got the talent of a max level player, but like we've talked about, in fact, we went on a pretty big rant about this on the stream earlier. So again, when you finish this, check it out. It's just really hard to give max salaries to, one, players of Trae's physical stature, and two, guys that are not like your true 1A guys. But like I said, for the Wizards, they're not as worried about that, right? They're not at that point yet. You've got to spend the money. You literally have a floor to spend on. So it is what it is, but I think they'll be a really fun team for a couple of years. And ultimately, another avenue they could have, if for example, I'm assuming he's going to get extended. We'll get into more of Sham's reporting here in a moment. But if, for example, they don't extend him, he could pick up that option. He could decline it. Say, for example, hypothetically, he picks it up. And then all of a sudden they've got a $47 million expiring player option, and they could flip him, maybe get a pick back. Right. That's probably what they would hope to do at that point. If they don't reach an agreement with him and extend him, then maybe there isn't a long term there. There's a possibility that there isn't. Right. There's a possibility that at some point they say, okay, well, let's just try to rehab his value, whatever that means in terms of this case, and try to get some assets back for him. Something like what Brooklyn has been really trying to do over the last few years here, where they've been taking in guys. Their latest guy is MPJ. Like they keep on taking these guys in and trying to shuttle them right back out when they get the assets that they can get. Right. So anyway, back to the reporting. The Hawks are poised to turn the page on a new era with the emergence of Jalen Johnson and others, bringing a much more fluid style of play around their wings and depth. McCollum serves as a valuable plug-and-play veteran while holding a $30 million expiring deal. Moving Young also provides Atlanta with added financial flexibility to pursue a larger salary over the next several months, with AD as a prime in-season target. That is spicy. So let me just really quickly talk about the Hawks of it all, just because it's really easy to have CJ and Kispert kind of fly under the radar in all of this. The Hawks are getting a veteran that's been around for quite a while in CJ that can come in and add some, veteran sense to that locker room. I don't think that they really need a ton from him, but he's another guy that's going to give them good production. He's a 19-5-5 guy, 19-4-4 guy. He's going to be a 40% shooter. He's going to come in and, as Sham said, be a plug and play guy. He's not going to come in and demand a bunch of touches. He's not going to demand the ball. I think he's just big enough also to play inside of their switching scheme as well. And I think he'd be nice flanked with some of those guys, but ultimately, unless he extends at a lower number. He's on a $30 million expiring deal. And I talked about salaries earlier. I just can't see a team giving CJ 30 at all. Right. Like he's going to be on like an MLE most likely next year. And that could be with Atlanta. Maybe they like what they see here, but maybe with somewhere else. Maybe he's even a guy that they wind up trying to buy out. I doubt it, but ultimately there's a lot of different ways we can go between now and the deadline. Maybe other things happen here. I don't know. But regardless, though, getting that shooting is nice. Speaking of shooting, adding Kispert, adding another 6'6" shooting wing is going to be helpful as well, because you can never really have enough shooting or too much shooting. So that's going to be nice for them. Again, adding in two shooters, two guys that aren't going to require a lot of usage like a Trae Young would. But ultimately, I think the most important piece here is just ridding themselves of the Trae Young drama, for lack of a better term. Not saying he's causing drama, but the situation was going to just get worse, right? Because they're not playing great with him. They want to be competitive this season, and he's going to want an extension. All this stuff is just going to unfold, and it's just going to be an issue in the locker room eventually, whether it's this year, the summer, next year. They just want to wash their hands of it, which I can understand, right? So I think that's the most important piece of it all. And on to AD. If they're able to turn Trae into basically AD and let's say CJ and Kispert, I don't know if they'd be able to. I mean, they can't aggregate those guys again, so they would be on the roster. So anyway, it just depends what they give up for AD. But if they're able to add AD and keep their main rotation pieces while also adding CJ, I think they could be a really fun team. I still don't think they're going to be able to go all the way, but I think they're going to be a really good and strong competitive team in the Eastern Conference that could be a really tough out. What I will say is if they mesh well enough and all that stuff, they have good health. What's up with Kristaps, by the way? He could potentially be a big centerpiece in an AD deal, but because I in theory, I mentioned this in a video recently. In theory, him and AD would be insane, but them dudes is not going to play more than like 5 minutes together. For the rest of the season, it's just not going to happen. They could, in theory, be an insane rim protection duo. They'd be slow as hell getting back on transition, but they'd be an interesting duo. But I digress. Like, if they're able to add AD, though, I think that could be a really, really tough out for a team that gets matched up with them, especially if AD is playing like AD, right? Like that could be interesting. So we'll see what happens with that ultimately. And Shams alluding to the fact that AD may wind up being on the market. But if you're Dallas in this situation, I think you want to try to extract a pick or something like that. You don't just want to match salaries, certainly not, because you've got the optics of the Luka trade. You can't turn AD into just nothing, right? Sure, expiring salary or whatever, but you can't do that, right? You have to get back something of value in terms of a pick or a young prospect or two, something. So we'll see what ultimately happens. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Make sure that thumbs up and subscribe here to the Basketball Bulletin, and make sure that you watch that stream that I was talking about. It's should be on the screen right now.